All right, it's a little after 7. Let's call this regular board meeting of the Silver Falls School District to order. Please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first item on the agenda is it's a new board year, so we need to nominate and elect a board chairperson and then a vice chairperson. So the floor is open for nominations.
I just want to say how I have appreciated the role that you two seasoned veterans have played this last year. I'm hoping you would be interested in serving again.
Yeah.
Well, I nominate Tom for board chair.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think, Tom, you've done a really good job this year, and I think the continuity is great.
Okay. Thank you for the vote of confidence. Do I have any other nominations?
I nominate Tom Buchholz as the board chair
Okay. Yeah.
for this one.
For this one, no.
Do we have to? We have to
No,
take
you already
action
have
on that
one.
first.
Oh, we got to go through that one.
I don't know. That's my question.
Well, we got one nomination at a time. Well, is anybody else interested? Any other nominations? Okay, seeing none. So, all in favor of Tom being board chairperson, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Oh, thanks, Shelley. Thanks, Shelley. Opposed? Okay. Motion passes 6-0. Who moved that? Somebody?
I did.
Yeah, Tim.
Jennifer seconded because she kind of.
Okay.
I was lost.
Okay. Okay, floor is open. Do I have a nomination for a vice chairperson?
Well, staying with the continuity and Jennifer's remarks, I'd like to nominate Tim.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other nominations? Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Opposed? Okay. Motion passes 6-0. You got the, okay, very good. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
I'll move for. Go ahead, Todd.
Move for approval.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries 6-0. Okay, that was a long one, so we're all the way down to our first audience with visitors. So welcome to the regular business meeting of the Silver Falls School Board. We are glad you are here and welcome you to address the board at this time. Please be certain to sign in before you present. In order to ensure equity among speakers, the board will limit remarks to 3 minutes per individual. If a group of 3 or more wishes to appoint a representative to speak on its behalf, the board will extend the time for remarks to 5 minutes. A second audience with visitors will occur later in the agenda, specific to discussion and action items of this meeting. Okay, would anybody like to come address the board? Oh, please come on up.
Hi, my name is Eliza Torlin and I live at Abaquah Road in Silverton, 16901.
Good. Can you sign in, please?
Yes.
Thanks. That's timer.
I just wanted to come in and talk about, I'm here as a parent and a PTT member at Butte Creek School. And we lost one of our teachers at the end of this year. She decided to switch schools and leave the district. And so I just wanted to say that losing Mrs. Boost as a teacher at Butte Creek School will affect our community at that school. It will affect our PTT. I don't really know the reasons for why she's left. I have some idea, but I just wanted to encourage you guys to perhaps give her an exit interview from the school board or a school board committee person, just to learn why she decided to leave, because she's brought a lot to our school and really been just such a mentor to so many of the teachers there as well as the parents. And she's been at almost every PTT meeting that I've been at over the last 3 years. And so losing her is going to really affect the function of our very small but committed PTT group. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, is there anybody else? Okay, seeing none, moving on. Discussion items. First item up is the resignation of Zone 6 Director, Todd White. He states he's going to resign effective August 1st, 2018. Is that correct, Todd? Yep. Okay, is there anything you'd like to say, or? Okay. Simple enough. Would anybody else like to say anything?
Well, I just want to
Yeah.
say, hey, Todd, I appreciate your efforts and everything you've done. I know this is a tough position. I think anytime there's a school board member prior to the end of the tenure is always kind of a tough thing. So, but I just want to, I know it's been a rocky road at times, but still what you've done, I think, has been fantastic. So, yeah, we're going to miss you.
Yeah. No, thank you for serving. There's been a few rocky patches along the way, but that's life. And I appreciate the differing points of view that you brought, and yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for serving. Okay. Okay. At this point, Todd, thanks for serving, and you got for you a little gift. Something for you to hang on the wall. Everybody gets one of these. So plaque. Thank you. Thanks so much. All right. And once again, thanks for serving, Tom. Okay. So now, next item, the next technicality is we now have to officially declare that there's a director vacancy, and we can, so officially, it will be open on after August 1st. So Andy, can you go over to the policy for filling that vacancy? I know you gave us a packet, but it'd be easier to.
Sure, it's policy BDE for anybody following along.
Yeah.
I'll just read portions of it.
We've done it before. I've never seen it done. I think, have you seen it?
Yeah, it's been about 10 years, 11
Okay.
years since it was done last time.
Okay.
Vacancies will be filled through board appointment. The board will attempt to attract and appoint individuals who reside within unrepresented zones. So in this case, you should seek folks from Zone 6. The board appointee must be a legally registered voter and a resident within the district for 1 year immediately preceding the appointment. The person will serve until June 30th of the year that the regular district election is held, so that would be June 30th of 2019. And there's just more particulars about if there were no candidates from the zone, you could look at other zones, and if there were more than one person, but that doesn't apply in this matter.
Okay.
And I've given to each of you a draft application for your consideration. If you think it's appropriate, we can move ahead with it. There are some to be determined things on there, like timelines and what that should or could look like. Knowing that Todd the position will be vacant on August 1st, I would encourage the board to select a replacement as soon as reasonably possible. I think it would be helpful to have the vacancy open and seek applications for 2 or 3 weeks even. That's up to you. Your policy allows you, by the way, to seek and collect applications even prior to August 1st. And even make the selection prior to August 1st with the person beginning after the departure. So at this time, I would encourage you just to have a brief conversation about that. You do have the benefit of having a budget committee process that you've followed in the past, which I think is very similar. In this case, I have received interest from at least 2 people from Zone 6, and so I anticipate at least 2 applications, which would mean that you'd have to have a meeting and have a couple of interviews and go from there. So turn it back to you.
Yeah, so how would that, so we got a board meeting on July 23rd and a board meeting on August 13th.
Correct.
So should we seat this person on July 23rd? How would that, or seat them on the August 13th meeting, according to that policy?
It will, there's nothing in policy
Okay.
that directs which meeting it should be held. Generally, you attempt to stay away from taking action during work sessions.
Only if there'd be an emergency or something, you would have
Correct.
an emergency meeting,
And
okay?
if you felt compelled to take action before your August 13th meeting, then you would just have to either schedule a meeting for that purpose, or you just have to make an exception on July 23rd
Okay,
and say you want to do it then. The other considerations, you could do interviews on July 23rd, and then you could take action on August 13th. It could be an early action item even, I suppose, but
Yeah.
I mean, there's the risk that you're going to have to function as a 6-member board for a meeting or 2,
Yeah.
depending upon what you're looking for, what the applicants present to you.
I guess there's 2 ways we could do it. I mean, could you take action on July 23rd and we have a full board to choose the replacement? Can Todd vote in choosing his own replacement?
Oh,
Or do you wait till August 13th and you have a 6-person board choosing? I'm just,
that's a good question.
it doesn't really
I,
spell it out, so I guess maybe that's for all of us to discuss.
Yeah, there's nothing in policy
Okay.
that says he can't.
Yeah, okay,
If we did July 23rd, that only is 2 weeks.
correct,
Yeah,
I
that's,
would like to see it be a little bit longer.
okay.
I would almost suggest, just off the top of my head, maybe taking applications to like August 1st. And then either if we feel like we need to do interviews, either do interviews at our regular meeting, or we could meet an hour early or something and do interviews at our regular meeting. And then decide at that meeting. Because I guess we just do interviews and then vote on it, right?
Discuss.
Discuss.
and
vote.
discuss. right?
Discuss and vote, and I
Yeah.
guess that could be the first action item of the meeting. I guess we would, and those interviews are public interviews,
Correct.
so I mean, it could just be part of the meeting, and if we felt like it was gonna be long, we could start the start time at 6 o'clock or something.
Yeah, I would suggest, rather than trying to schedule a meeting just for that, I would probably think if we started at 6 or something on our August meeting, and then seat the board member the first thing, and then, or later in the meeting, we could go one meeting with a 6-member board, that's no big deal, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it is, and I just wanted to clarify the
Yeah.
process, just kind of an interesting thing there.
You know, my reason for, not letting the board and that stuff is that, you guys kind of maybe quickly get somebody in place, and because there's the trainings, if I remember right, at the end of
At the
August.
end of August.
You know, I thought
Yeah.
a new member, it might be beneficial if they were able to do that.
Yeah, those are good thing, yeah, perfect. Yeah, so no, that sounds like
We could even-
the process Tim outlined, I think sounds good. Get applications till August 1st.
It all
Okay.
sounds reasonable to me. I do like the longer
And
application.
then we could have a chance to look at applications on our own for the August 13th meeting. And if we had 10 people, we could even meet at 5:30 or something if we had to. We could do, like, however long of interviews per person, and then just vote that night.
I would like to think we could always, I mean, I suppose if we had to, we could choose to
Yeah.
put it off if we
Yeah.
get to a stalemate.
Yeah, postpone it, yeah.
Shelley, are you catching this? Do you have any input?
I am. I'm catching all of it. A lot of the thoughts that have been expressed at this point is very reasonable. I like the application process that we also did with the budget committee last year. I think it gives an opportunity for many people to research, if they want It shows that we did our research and we did interviews and we'll make the right choice. So I'm all for, maybe a deadline of August 1st for applications, and we need to, advertise that as much as we can, especially from the people from that zone. That's my 2 cents in there. So I'm agreeing to almost everything that everyone is saying.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, Shelley, thank you. So yeah, applications till August 1st. And then we can set the start time. How much notice, public meeting notice do we have? If we're going to move because this would be part of the board meeting. We would be essentially starting the board meeting earlier, correct? Am I correct on this?
Yeah, if we change the
Yeah.
time, we just have to give adequate notice.
What's adequate notice?
Well, 24 hours for really any significant adjustment, like even a meeting. So I'd say at least 24 hours.
I mean, if we have 10 people versus 2, it's
Yeah,
just
and you'll know, I think
We'll know pretty quick.
you'll know, I plan to get the applications, or Debbie, both of us will get the applications to you a week or more ahead of time, so we'll know.
We'll know by
But-
August 1st how many
Yeah, you'll
people
know,
we
yeah.
have. So we should have plenty of time to kind of
Okay.
suss out what's going to happen.
So I really liked the budget committee applicant process that we went through, so I think it sounds like we're going to follow that same outline. The question I have is, did we have an informational piece for applicants of the budget committee that said this is what you're expected to do? Is there, I guess my point is there some kind of one-page?
What a board does.
Yeah, what a board member does.
That's a good point.
What to
We can, I'm certain we can come up with something, an OSBA, I'm certain has something that can help us with that. We'll make it happen.
Thanks.
Yeah, great.
And if we get if we get too many that we can't do it all in one thing, we can figure out what to do then.
Yeah, we'll have plenty of time. We'll know August 1st how many applicants we have, and then we'll be able to refine the process going forward.
Right.
You know, when the comment was made about making sure that we can get the word out, I'm assuming that's just going to be posted on the website?
We'll,
mean, what's that
just
gonna look
what I'm thinking in my mind at this point is post it on the website. We will push it out on Facebook. I also believe that there is a Butte Creek School a parent listserv, so we can contact one of the secretaries from Butte Creek. I see Kevin Palmer's here this evening. He can help us get it out to the Butte Creek community. So I think if we do it in 2 or 3 ways like that, the word will get out. If there are other suggestions you have, we can surely do those as well.
Yeah, does that go into any other zone, any other school zones? Does it bleed over into Scotts Mills at all, or even into, I'm not quite sure where that zone?
Yeah, it's predominantly,
It's mostly, yeah, it's mostly Butte Creek.
But I believe it does bleed into a couple other zones.
Okay, because people know, even though somebody's from another part of the district, they might know somebody that might not be connected.
Well, and we do have an email blast of parents and community members of about 4,000 or 5,000. We'll send it out in that one as well. So we use all of our typical
Okay.
tools that we send every
Yeah,
communication.
yeah, I would think everything, yeah. Okay. Okay, anybody have any questions, comments? Shelley, did I hear you say you're good there?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Okay, very good. All right, let's move on to the next item.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to interrupt. Did
Oh.
anybody see anything on the application? Were those questions satisfactory? I think they're pretty open-ended, so they give
I
you a lot
thought it was
of.
fine. That's kind of along the lines of what we used before when we did this a while ago.
Oh, yeah. Tom, I do have one question.
Yeah, Shelley, go ahead.
Just really quick, is it normal to have someone fill out an application to fill a vacant seat on the board? This was used in the past. I think I just heard Ken say that. Is that correct? I didn't know there was an application process.
Yeah, we did that. This has happened one other time. It's been quite a while ago, but if I remember right, we had an application process. And then at that time, I think we had 2 people, and we interviewed them and then made a decision.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Okay. That cover all the details, you think, Andy?
I think so.
I think we got any other questions, input? Okay, so item C on our discussion items. We got some budget committee vacancies coming up. So Andy, what'd you have on, what are the vacancies that we got?
You have 3 budget committee members whose
Okay.
term is coming to an end. That would be Melissa Cipher-Briggs, Jacob Clotfelter, and, thank you, Kurt Metzger. All 3 have now indicated an interest in being reappointed. Your policy allows reappointment to the board, but it also requires that you open the budget committee positions to others interested in the district as well. But we always ask the budget committee members if they're interested in being reappointed, because that is an option for you as well. I suggested to each of you in the memo that you consider postponing your budget committee selection until you select your replacement board member. That just feels right. It feels like from a processing standpoint, that way you don't have multiple selections happening at once. You are required, as per policy, to have budget committee selections by, I believe it's your September meeting. And so it would require action on the board to temporarily postpone that date to, let's say, October. You could even go as late as November if you felt it necessary. So, turn that over to you for
Yeah,
discussion.
yeah, Andy, thanks for that.
Well, can I ask a question for Andy?
Oh, of
before we
course.
start? So the current, the 3 current budget committee members that were, their positions that we're talking about, they've served for 1 term?
No, I believe Kurt Metzger has served for 2, Melissa Cipher-Briggs has served for 2, and Jacob Clotfelter for 1.
Okay.
And that'll be part of the information that we summarize for the board when they select. their
Okay,
replacements.
so what we're talking about, and there is no term limit in policy?
I believe your policy says that budget committee terms are 2 terms, 2 consecutive terms, unless that is changed by majority action of the board. So we've had some budget committee members serve multiple terms, more than 2. But the policy does refer to 2
Okay.
as a recommendation.
Okay. So how does that impact this discussion?
Well, it's mainly just because we could be potentially interviewing a replacement board member and replacement budget committee at the same time. So, I mean, I'm kind of on board with postponing it maybe just till October or November. I can't think of any other conflicts.
And
So
so,
either of those 2 months are fine.
help me understand, so the vacant, the budget committee positions are vacant, even though all 3 people want to
There's an incumbent running,
reapply?
right, reapplying. I
So
guess running, yes, reapplying.
Is that, am I understanding that
Yes,
correctly?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
And then I guess Andy, as we announce that, as you send out the communications, I guess let people know that they're open, and the current people there wish to, I guess are up for are reapplying also. You know, just to let them know it is, I mean, technically it's open, but it's also, I don't know, I'm not being very clear here.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, Shelley.
Can I mention something?
Yeah, Shelley.
Really quick. So we have 3 committee members who have been on the budget committee, who are wanting to reapply to keep their seat. But it is also open to the public to apply for those seats as well.
Yeah,
So if the advertising can go out in that respect, it would give people a better understanding of, okay, we have 3 people who want to stay, but you also can apply for the seats as well. So does that make more sense, or?
yeah, much better, yeah.
Does that understand? Okay, if I
Yeah.
have that correct.
Yeah, that's stated
Okay.
much better. That way they know that they're running against, whatever, for lack of a better, applying against a person,
Yeah.
vying for the seat of someone who's already sitting in that. Does that make sense, Andy?
Yeah.
Well, that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah.
I'll do what you asked me to do. If you want to have
I mean-
the budget committee vacancies advertised at the same time as a board member vacancy, we could surely do that. I'm thinking you may want to get the board position filled first.
Oh, yeah, I guess I'm sorry.
And
sorry.
then
maybe-
advertise the budget committee vacancies after that.
Correct. Maybe I wasn't clear. Yeah, I'm for moving it toward October, November.
Okay.
but as we communicate to the public about the budget seat, let the public know that the seat is open, but also let the public know that these three members are interested
Yes.
in maintaining that seat.
We can do that.
That way they know that, it's not a completely open seat. I mean, it is, but it's,
You bet.
they're running against somebody who has, they're applying against somebody who has experience in that seat.
Sure, sure.
So they know that where they're at.
We can do that.
So, and, yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of waiting until October, November too, because
Yeah.
it might not hurt to wait even until school's back in session to start, to get applications in, because it'll just get a little more publicized as school's going on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that will require action tonight to do that, because your policy does state that you'll fill it by September.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Okay, yeah, so, October, November, anybody got any input?
November.
I'd say November.
November, okay.
As you wish.
I would say November.
Okay, let's add that as an action item B, move the budget, fill the budget vacancy in the November meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Anybody, any more input?
The November regular meeting?
The November regular meeting, yeah, okay. That would be, well, find the date of that thing. No, it's not on there, but the November regular meeting. Okay, next item, discussion item D, our July 23rd work session and August 27th work sessions. The agenda is light on July 23rd, and I think we're here, discussing, do we just want to cancel that meeting? Has there been anything you need to add to that?
Well, it's up to you, but there's
Yeah,
no
yeah.
additional items
Right.
that I'm aware. You have one topic right now, which is a review of some insurance, your policies and practices by our agent of record. But as of the moment, there are no additional items.
Okay.
And we could postpone that topic to another meeting if you chose.
Yeah, I'm for that.
I'm for that.
Yeah,
I'm open.
yeah. Shelley, you okay with moving that meeting? Or
I
clo-
sure am.
Okay, and so,
I am.
okay, and so that would probably get moved to the August 27th work session, Andy? I
The
see.
August 27th is currently scheduled, but you asked to schedule your extended work session to
Right,
August
okay, that's-
28th. And so the August 27th session is in question, but it's only because you moved it one day. So I just want to be certain that the public is aware, if you cancel the July 23rd meeting, you're also canceling the August 27th meeting, but you're holding it on August 28th with your extended work session.
Why did we decide that?
Yeah.
It was availability of the trainer.
Of the trainer.
Yeah.
The
Right.
trainer, and the 27th is also a district in-service day,
Yes.
first day of in-service.
Oh, okay, that makes sense then. Well, I say we cancel the August 27th one then also. 'Cause we don't want to come Monday and Tuesday.
And so is there a time frame for that insurance discussion that we have to, no? Okay,
Set
so
the
we
hour.
can put that in.
We actually, you took action tonight to reappoint Larson Flynn as your agent of record, but this is actually just some very good news about some great things happening in the school district related to insurance and fewer claims and safer employees, just a number of great things.
Okay, so is there someone going to come and present to us
Yes.
about that? Okay.
Yeah, so we'll postpone that to probably to September. I mean, it's not so time sensitive.
Okay, perfect. That's kind of what I was checking. Do we need to do it during a regular session? But we'll do it, just move that to the September
Okay.
work session then. So, okay, so we're on board. We canceled the July 23rd work session because of a very light agenda. And we've moved the August 27th work session one day. We moved it to August 28th. So it facilitates our, the equity training.
Correct.
Okay.
What day is our other August thing?
August 20th. Actually, August 20th is your training on equity, and August 28th is your board self-evaluation training.
Okay. All right, anybody have any other items they'd like to discuss? Okay, let's move on to administrator and staff reports. We got a report from Kevin Palmer about the Silverton High School Clay Target Team. Sounds like you got some people going to the national tournaments.
Well, good evening, folks. We're here to get your formal approval for a trip this week. Kind of timing was tight on this, but before I get into things, I'd like to introduce to my right Cameron Phillips, senior to be next year. Don Shepard, father of Chris, and Jamie Phillips, one of our coaches with the trap team, Cameron's dad, and Chris Shepard. Chris and Cameron were far and away our two top shooters this year, and in doing so, they've qualified for the first ever national trap tournament, which will be held this week, July 12th to 15th in Mason, Michigan. So they have been busy getting ready, flying out here pretty quick, and we'll be back there competing against over 2,000 of the very best trap shooters in the country. And so this is really the start of the national tournament. We had our state tournament just a few weeks ago, or a couple weeks ago up in Hillsboro. And we have results of that on the back side, on the back page, for all of our shooters. They were all there, all 10 of our team members. And we finished as a team 14th. Out of the 24 teams that were represented out of 25. And just a little bit of the growth of this sport in Oregon. This year there were 437 high school students taking part in 25 teams across the state. Last year, 14 teams, 14 high schools, and less than 200 athletes taking part. So it's growing at that pace in Oregon, which is kind of a reflection of how this started in the Midwest as well. So it's just going to keep growing that way. And we've had an incredible group of students, coaches, parents this year that have been supportive. They've been there. Everything, anything needs to be done, it's been done. Our biggest issue when we talked to you guys first back in November about it was safety, and these guys have been as safe as you could possibly imagine with their shotguns, with their ammunition, the procedures, and that's on them. That's them being super mature. We have a bunch of freshmen on the team this year. Chris and Hannah Zerbrug are our only seniors. And so we're a young team, and they have learned the right way from our coaches and the folks up at Canby Rod and Gun Club. How to be safe, how to treat it seriously, how to have fun, and how to improve. So it's just been a great go all the way through, and we look forward to next year. But first, these guys have to go back and prove themselves on a very large stage in Michigan. So they were good enough to be able to be here tonight. I told them they didn't have to speak, but they could if they wanted to, and if you had any questions for them. So there we are. That's our trip to nationals. You guys leave tomorrow, don't you, Don? Chris, Don and Chris tomorrow. So we're hoping you don't say no. That'd be a mess.
That would be a bummer, yeah.
Kind of confident.
So the shortness to the wide condensed, we didn't find out who qualified for nationals until the season was over. So we didn't get notification until June that Chris and Kim qualified for the national competition. And there were only 1,000 spots open, and we didn't know if we'd be able to secure a spot in the competition until June 22nd. So
Okay.
You have to wait to be invited.
Yeah, yeah.
By the tournament to be able to participate. It was well after your last regular board meeting, so.
Sure.
What did it take to qualify for nationals? What,
students had to compete all 5 weeks, all 9 weeks in the season, and they had to maintain an average over 22 targets per round. So 22 out of 25 targets.
oh, wow.
So they had to, that was the minimum qualification to qualify to get a tier 1 invite.
Man. Congratulations.
These guys were both just a fraction under 23 out of 25 for the
Wow.
season, so.
All
Hitting
season
a lot
long.
of targets.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Congratulations for your consistency.
Yeah, congratulations.
Chris and Cameron.
Yeah.
You know, I'm amazed at the rapid growth of the sport. I mean, truly. As the season wore on, did you find out you were getting more interest from other students getting on for the next season?
Yeah, kids would keep asking me about all these tournaments that were going on and stuff, and I was like, yeah, they're pretty sweet. And they were like, oh, well, I want to try that next year.
Oh, right on.
Good.
That's cool.
You were going back to nationals.
Oh yeah, when I bring up the nationals thing, that got everyone talking about it. They were like, well, there's like a national tournament, and I was like, yeah.
Okay.
We had, in January, for the initial information meeting, there were about 41 students there, and it's signed, well, they weren't all there, but they had signed through the AD's office that they'd be interested in doing this. But with such a short time frame, you had to be set by March 15th, either way. And so it was pretty tight. And so we had 10, and that was great. Squads are 5, so we have 2 squads of 5 each night and at state. But next year, now that we're already on track, and so we'll have an organizational meeting in the fall, give people lots of lead time. And, like Chris said, yeah, there's buzz around the school, and we expect 10 to grow to, however many. It's a no-cut sport. How many does Malala have?
Malala, yeah, 37 competitors.
So,
Wow, 36, wow.
And the first year that they did it, they actually had 24, so they grew from 24 to 37, and that was with 12 graduations.
Wow.
So of the 24, they had 12 senior graduates.
Okay. Very good.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Good job.
next year, we want to give you guys more lead time than I did for the fun night, because we could have a 5-team school board squad go out and shoot. No, really, I
I
mean,
would do
training
that.
or anything.
I'd do that.
You
I'd
put a
do
shotgun
that.
in your
That'd be
hand and go
cool.
shoot. And it's,
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, so no,
Are the
yeah, it's
targets?
cool, all right.
Is it
If
clay-
you
is
hit
it-
what you're aiming at, because I was reminded how long it'd been since I had shot a shotgun, and I'm sure kids were snickering behind me
Oh,
as I
yeah,
was
but that's okay. We
shooting.
can laugh at
But it was still fun, and I'll get better, keep doing it. So,
okay, but just to verify, no wind sprints, no push-ups, right? Nothing like that.
if you listen to Coach Garrett, Doug Garrett is our other coach, and he's not here tonight. He's huge on that kind of stuff, and so the kids managed to fend him off on like regular, type of exercise and like brutal sprints and 5-mile runs. So that's probably on Coach Garrett's docket for next year. So, yeah.
Excellent. Well,
What
thanks,
type of
guys.
shotguns do you guys both use?
I should have top arm 4 gauge.
I should have Beretta over
Well, congratulations,
Yeah.
you guys, on making it to
Good job,
nationals.
Yeah, congratulations, guys. Yeah, it's an action item on tonight. So, yeah, very good.
Jamie, thank you for your
Thanks,
work
folks.
coaching.
Yeah, thank you. Congratulations.
Okay, next item up is seismic project updates from about the Robert Frost School project, the Silverton Middle School project, and also a survey for board self-evaluation. Andy, take it away.
I received an update from Lauren Stanley today. I'll read to you about Robert Frost. He said the Robert Frost School project is on schedule. They're getting ready to pour concrete footings. The siding has been demolished and getting ready to install the shear wall. The project is within budget. There was one change order early on in the project, but the project remains in budget even as a result of the one change order. So you can surely stop by Robert Frost and see some of the activity. It's exclusively to the play shed area up there, but they're making great progress. Silverton Middle School, we're still in negotiation, conversation, discussion with Woodburn Construction Company. It's a very busy time of year for Woodburn Construction. It's a very busy time of year for Lawrence Stanley. So sort of the timeliness of getting this all ironed out, and with ZCS Engineering, is taking a little longer than what would have been a normal time, let's say in February or March when things are a little quieter. So they're still doing everything they can to get it within the guaranteed maximum price, and as long as they can do that, then I believe we're ready to move ahead based upon your approval of Woodburn Construction. If they're not able to get it within the guaranteed maximum price, then I'll be coming back to you with a recommendation that we discontinue that relationship and we move on to the next plan, which is very likely another grant application to seek additional funding. But at this point, we're still very optimistic that we can get it within budget.
Okay, great. Glad to hear that.
The third is related to your August 28th extended board work session. You asked that a board self-evaluation be the primary topic of conversation with others that could come out of that conversation. So the Oregon School Boards Association does have a board self-evaluation tool. We have now, through the assistance of Derek McElfresh, have put that tool on SurveyMonkey, and we will be sending that survey to you tomorrow. We'll be asking that you complete it, probably right around August 1st or so 2 or 3 weeks to do that. And then we'll get the results to Renee Sessler of OSBA, who will take the results. She'll digest it and put it into some talking points for you and be fully prepared for the 28th. Okay? That'll all be electronic, which I think is real bonus.
Is it multiple choice and true false?
And all of the above. I think there'll be some open-ended questions as well.
Okay.
You can do it.
I don't like to evaluate myself.
Exactly. Okay, next item up is the review of the 2018 District TEL survey results.
Yeah, we're actually going to come out to the
everybody,
table.
Come on out.
Jennifer Gannon, Danny Stevens. All right.
Shelley, you still with us?
I am, yes, thank you.
Okay.
Take just a moment to get the results up. So while this is warming up, I'll give you a brief introduction. We could speak for a long time about the TEL survey results. There are, if you drill down deep into these results, they are, for the most part, hundreds of pages that a person could analyze and take a look at these results. So we're focusing predominantly on the summary results, but we'll encourage each of you to take a look at the results if you haven't done so already online, because you can surely see more detail than what some of the summary information is providing. So the TEL survey, for your reminder and for that of the public, is the Teaching, Empowering, Leading, and Learning Survey. It's completed every 2 years by all teachers in the state of Oregon and district level administrators. It's an anonymous survey that's legislatively driven, so it came out of the legislature a few sessions ago, and really puts teachers and building administrators in a position of anonymously sharing information to help improve schools across the state of Oregon. The surveys are completed on a site-specific level, so the results that we're sharing with you as a district this evening are actually a culmination of the site-specific results. The survey was administered beginning February 1st, 2018. Went for a month. It was actually a week or 10 days, I can't recall specifically, added to it simply because there was a hope for additional participation to be able to increase the participation to a decent amount. I believe the statewide results produced about a 54% response. We are hovering just under 61% as a response for a district, which is nearly identical to the 61% response we had in 2016. Once the results were released, I, at an administrator meeting, asked all of the principals to share the results with their staff members, specifically at a staff meeting. This was a non-negotiable. They had to share it at a staff meeting and ask a few questions of staff members in order to really dial down to what it meant for their school. School administrators were also required to extend all of the TEL survey results to each of their community members within their respective site communities, which they completed as well, and to seek input if there was any questions that were asked by parents or other members of the community. The questions that I asked the principals to share with their staff were very open-ended kind of questions, their reaction to the results. And by the way, I asked that they first compare the results of 2016 to 2018. That felt like the best place to start, with then additional comparison that could be made to state results at that point. But for me, if I'm a building principal, I want to see what kind of change is noted from one session to the next, or one survey to the next, and so they did that. I also asked the staff, or excuse me, the principals to work with their staff members or teachers to develop recommendations based upon the results, site-specific recommendations that they could use for building goal setting for the next 2 years, that they could really hang their hat. And again, there are endless options or opportunities to I think really define what some of those goals may be based upon the results that they get. So I did ask the principals to narrow that scope to 2, possibly 3 goals that would come from the TEL survey results. I also asked the principals to ask the question of their staff, and I call it my I wonder question. You know, I wonder what this means, or I wonder what the results really are trying to tell us. Or as we compare the results to 2016 and 2014, I wonder why it's not improving. I wonder why it is improving, and really ask themselves some deep questions to prompt that sort of critical thinking that comes with analyzing some good data results. And then, as I shared with you, I asked them to use the data to assist in targeting goals for 2018 and 20. So there may be a takeaway from you this evening, or as we move into over the next couple of months, as you begin to define your goals for 2018-19, that there may be something from the TEL survey results that could cause you to say, hey, I think we ought to consider that as a board. So Jennifer, Dandy, and I took each of the categories on the summary, and you have a hard copy summary result, and we put a number of copies in the back, and I have the comparison results here from 2016 to 2018, and I'll just very quickly go to the top. The far left column is Silver Falls in 2018, and this middle column is 2016. The far right column is 2014. There are a lot of NAs in 2014, thankfully, simply because we had such a low participation, as most school districts did in the state that year, that the results were not valid or reliable, I should say. We split the wealth here. I took the areas of community support, teacher leadership, and school leadership, and I'm going to highlight just a few things that I captured from there. Then I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer and Andy, and I know Jennifer has a document that she'll want to share with you as well. So just related to community support, if you're looking at your hard copies, the third page in, it says community support and involvement, and again, keeping in mind the reaction to the results, the I wonders, and what we can take away from this. I was really quite pleased, not just with community support, but I think as you'll hear with most of the areas, nearly all of the areas, and even the questions within the areas, there are notable increases across the district. There are some areas that are still, I think, worth noting that still need some attention, but there are notable increases. So I very quickly focused on community support involvement. Question B, this school maintains clear two-way communication with the community. Compared to 2016, it actually took about a 5% jump. I think that's partially reflective of the increased focus that the school district has had on communication and the expectation that we've had of principals improving communications within their communities. 93% is quite a nice figure, I think, when you talk about that. I thought there was a very notable increase, enough to note, I should say, in letter E. Parents and guardians know what is going on in this school district or this school. That jumped from almost 88% to 93%, which again is reflective of each school in the district, but culminates into the large figure for the entire district. The one area that we saw a slight drop is letter H. The community we serve is supportive of this school. That dropped from 93.2% in 2016 to 90.1% in 2018. I don't know that that's a significant notation. It's one that just caught my attention. Of course, we like to have full community support when it comes to all of our activities within the school district, but we're a very large school district of 4,000 kids and another 8,000 parents on top of that, and so we do everything we can to keep that's perfect. To keep all of our community informed and supported. I'm going to bounce right back to teacher leadership, which is the 5th page back. It says right at the top, teacher leadership, and I'm sorry, I'm not doing it really well. Teacher leadership. Again, saw some notable increases. Teachers are recognized as educational experts. Again, this is coming directly from the teachers. We saw about a 3% increase in that area. Teachers are trusted to make sound professional decisions about instruction. That one jumped 2 percentage points. Of course, we work hard to make that kind of professional decision about instruction even more notable. There are some teachers, frankly, who would like a lot more freedom in the instruction. There are some who want less, and frankly, we are driven largely by what we're expected to do from the state of Oregon. And so much of that, in some cases, is out of our hands. So that's one of those I wonders, right? I wonder, really, what our teachers would want. Would they really want it to be much higher than 80%? Because at that point, they're making very specific decisions that may not be guided as specifically by the state of Oregon as some teachers would be comfortable with. Teachers are encouraged to participate in school leadership roles. That jumped 3 percentage points as well. The faculty has an effective process for making group decisions to solve problems. Letter E, that one jumped just a little bit. That's quite low. Generally speaking, it's still higher than the state average. That's generally speaking a low figure for across the state of Oregon, but the figures are slightly higher than they are across the states. And question number it says Q 6.5. Teachers have an appropriate level of influence on decision making in this school. Another one that's hovering in the 60s across the state of Oregon, but it took about an 8% jump. So generally speaking, there was growth in every category. I want to remind you that this comes at a time with increased standards and more uniformity across the district than this district has ever seen related to curriculum and instruction. So I think that's also reflective of that. You're a buzzkill, right? I also think that, and Jennifer will mention this a little bit, that I think it's reflective of an increased use of our formative data, our STAR assessment tools, to really do a good job across the district of best assessing our students from a formative standpoint. And I also believe that's an increase of use of data teams, which results in real decisions being made, real-time decisions, I should say, about our students on a day-to-day basis. And finally, the last one, which is, for me anyway, is school leadership. There are a few areas that caught my attention. The faculty and leadership have a shared vision. We actually had I think, a concerning low figure 2 years ago, but seeing that letter A jump from 62% to 84% was quite impressive. I do think that throughout this survey, the results of this survey, there's indication that we are also adhering to your strategic plan. And when you have a grounding document such as your mission statement, your strategic plan, it shows up in results like this, and these are examples of that. So I'll jump in letter B. There's an atmosphere of trust and mutual respect in this school. That again came from across the district, about a 15% jump in that one. A couple, letter E and F also saw some nice jumps related to facilities, facilitates using data to improve student learning. And then letter I, it was just rather kind of interesting. I made a notation here. Letter I doesn't quite align with letter J and K, it says teachers in the school receive feedback about their teaching on an ongoing basis, which shows about a 63% response, again, low statewide. But then when we see the kind of high ratings for J and K, which talk about the procedures for teacher evaluation, and teachers in the school are evaluated by someone who is well prepared to use the district's evaluation tool, both show significant jumps. So those three questions are somewhat similar in their responses, so that's why when I see one that was a little out of sorts, it drew my attention, and I can't explain that.
I think the ongoing basis, the word ongoing, to me, means more frequent, and evaluation only happens, once a year maybe. That was my take on that.
Yeah, maybe there's.
And actually, we have evaluation itself, due to some changes, recent changes occur really on an ongoing basis. That's part of the instrument and the tools that we use within the district. So it's no longer the one and done, the dog and pony show.
Got
right,
it.
that some of us are very familiar with. That we really made a concerted effort to try to have frequent observations that are used at some point, at least with some opportunity for use for evaluative purpose. Go ahead, Dan.
I asked my 3 building principals that I supervised what their staff meant by that, like when they were answering that question, what came to their mind. And those 3 principals said that their staff still kind of have this conception that every time an administrator walks into their classroom, that they're going to get feedback.
Yeah.
Even if it's just to see how Johnny's behaving, because you had a conversation with Johnny yesterday and you spend some time and you're looking at all sorts of things. That it still puts that teacher on notice that there's somebody in my room and I should be getting feedback on that every time.
And hopefully we get to a point where
that
it's
where
not
it's
a big
just-
deal to
right.
have an administrator
Yeah.
in your classroom. That makes sense to me.
Right, maybe they're perceiving an administrator in the room as, and they're not telling me anything, it must be a critical,
Right.
because they're writing notes and leaving, or leaving the hall and leaving, maybe they're perceiving that as a critical,
Right.
so, okay.
And teachers deserve it as well. I mean, when
Yeah,
a
and
teacher comes into a classroom and makes an observation, even the short written note is well received, and frankly, it's a professional obligation that we have to support.
So it's just awesome that are training our principals that, hey, when you're walking around, keep your iPad with you. So that if you're just walking around, just to be out in the hall and not trapped on your phone, that if you leave a teacher X's classroom, just throw a little email, hey, thanks for what you're doing today. I really enjoyed watching the kids do X. I mean, it doesn't have to be this big process.
Or a thumbs
Yeah.
up, just
Yeah.
something to know that it wasn't,
Yeah.
I got it.
So they're cognizant of that.
Okay, cool.
So we can come back to any of these that you like at any time, but I'm going to send it over to Jim. At this point, we do have a document for, is that it?
Yes, that's it.
And I- I'll just scroll down.
Perfect. Okay, so the first area that I looked at was managing student conduct. And no surprises there, although we are above the state average in every category, we are lower in every category. So that should be no surprise to y'all, because you've been hearing it all year, right? From principals and special ed and from us that we're struggling with managing student conduct. So we have taken several interventions this year, one of which was to adopt the social emotional learning curriculum. So we are going to be implementing that this fall and training our trainers, in-district trainers, one in each building this summer. And then some of our professional development, of course, is training our staff to view and respond to behavior differently. The consequence model is not the same thing as a corrective action model, so there's a little bit of a philosophical shift that we have to make there, because the behaviors that we're dealing with are not necessarily kids choosing to be naughty. The kinds of behaviors that we're seeing now are kids lacking the skills that it takes to be successful, the self-management, awareness, social awareness, responsible decision-making, relationship skills. So we're looking at skill deficits that we have to backfill. So we know it's a problem, and that's our plan to deal with it. So we're hoping that next year our teachers feel a little bit more empowered to take control of that situation. Right now, I mean, they're asking, they know it's an issue, obviously, because it's in front of them every day, and so they're asking for, like, what's our group strategy to deal with this? And so we've responded with that curriculum and of course piloted it in a few schools, which you guys got to hear about. So we expect that trend to switch back the other way. That's our hope. We also have changed, on each school's report card, there's a collection of skills that are called sometimes employment skills, sometimes personal management skills. Those will all change next year to the social emotional learning skills, and so we'll have assessments for each of those in our new curriculum. So I'm excited. It's exciting work to do. Even though it was a bummer that it went down, it was not a surprise. So
Jennifer,
yeah,
so the new curriculum we're using for this,
yeah.
there's one person in each building that's kind of
The
give the
trainer
training.
model, right? So we'll
So then
connect.
how are you gonna do the training in the buildings then, so teachers know how to use this?
So that will be during in-service week, that week that teachers are back before kids are here. Their building trainer will have meetings in their building to train their staff. And then we also have a district coach, because you heard from the teachers who implemented it that it's a pretty intuitive curriculum, and we don't think many teachers are going to struggle with it, but if they do feel out of their element or not comfortable with it, we do have a district trainer that we are training up, and she can go, who's struggling, who needs some extra support, and she can go around and help get them started.
And it's just gonna take time for teachers to feel comfortable using it.
Yeah, although I think you heard from the
Yeah,
three
sounds
that
pretty
it was pretty,
Yeah.
I think all three of them said, I know I should be doing that stuff. This is just like a systematic
Yeah.
framework to implement it, and gets us all in the same language, and you just have to not assume, that kids are coming in with those skills because they used to. They're just not now, because our world is different than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So it's work we can do. We've broken it down to skills. It's not like they all have to become, therapists or behavior specialists. We're looking at 5 skills, so teachers know how to do that.
Okay.
So.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you expect to evaluate the program after the first year?
Yeah, so in each building, they track through their data team process, behavior referrals, and then referrals for behavior interventions, and at the lowest level all the way up to a special education referral. So we'll look at numbers of referrals, and then teachers throughout the year, 3 times in the year, give feedback on how their classroom is going, management. They do a reflection piece, so we're hoping to see that they're feeling more in control of that.
And that came with the curriculum, that reflection piece?
No, that's built into our talent ed system. That's in our
Okay.
teacher evaluation system. We asked them to reflect on that 3 times a year already.
All right.
In terms of evaluating each kid by skill, that comes in our curriculum. There's rubrics for each grade band. So there's a K1, 2, like in the area of self-awareness, K through 2nd grader should be able to do these things. And a 3rd through 5th grader should be able to do these things.
And are you going to ask teachers to submit that kind of data for you to look
That'll be
at?
on the report card.
Oh.
Yeah, we're going to change all of those personnel management things
Yes.
and social skills things to those skills that will be evaluated with the rubrics in that curriculum. Yeah, so we'll all be talking about the same thing. They vary widely, classroom to classroom, even within a building now. And certainly building to building, we're looking at different things. But now we're looking at those 5 skills, because we know if kids can do those 5 skills, they can be successful.
Thank you.
So Jennifer, quick question. So under the managing student conduct, if I understand correctly, if we were to filter out maybe K through 2
Yeah.
on some of the scores and look at maybe the older kids,
Yeah.
the assumption would be the scores wouldn't have dropped as much. They'd be probably closer to what we've seen in the past. Is that
I
fair to
think
say?
that they are certainly feeling it the most at the younger grades, because we've heard the phrase this year a few times, right, that 5 is the new 2. Because just the self-regulation skills that we used to in our society build in mechanisms for kids to learn patience and to manage frustrations and to deal with hard things and to work through a problem. They don't necessarily have that now. We've made it pretty easy for them. So sometimes kids are walking into a kindergarten classroom and experiencing those things for the first time. So our kindergarten classrooms look different and they feel more chaotic than they ever have. But they're seeing it at every level. I think you heard that from Dawn Roth from Pradham when she implemented it in her 6th or 8th grade. She's like, even at Pradham, even in the middle school, it's different now.
It's the new reality.
Different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kids are different now. We were raising them differently. They are exposed to different things. They live in a different culture than we grew up in, or that they grew up in even 5 or 10 years ago. So we have to adjust, or that trend will continue, probably.
So it's truly representative of all groups, all ages.
Yeah, more so K2, I would say, but nobody's immune.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome.
So do you think this K2 group or whatever is just kind of the start of it? And it's going to be a long-term trend, or?
We have seen this trend nationwide over about the past 5 years. So many states have adopted social emotional learning as a standards area, like social studies, math, health, science, social emotional. It's in other states' state standards. We have them in Oregon's, but they're embedded in counseling and guidance and health standards. But there is a committee working currently to pull those out and make them a separate standard in this state as well. So it's not just us, it's kind of nationwide, and there's lots of factors. They've identified 5 factors they think are contributing to why we're seeing a different kind of kid. But yeah, I mean, those kids are different kids that have come in, and all the way through we will have to be playing catch up on, okay, how do we deal with them now as 5th graders? How do we deal with them now as 8th graders? What do they look like in high school? Our seniors in high school were like pre-touchscreens, right? Pre-Google, but those kids are leaving, and these kids that are coming in have had a touchscreen in their hand since they were, in toddlers and car seats, and it's a different way that they learn, and a different way that they've developed social emotionally. Yeah. Yeah, different kids, because they're exposed to different stuff.
Right. That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
And we're not tolerant as a culture, right, of kids, 2-year-olds laying on the ground pitching fits anymore in restaurants and grocery stores, right? You don't see that as much. It used to be funny if it wasn't your kid, It's like the collective, like, oh, let's be 2, or, 3, they're getting independent, gang. But now we hand them a cell phone or an iPad, and they're instantly soothed, but they have not developed the ability to, work through being frustrated or being patient or take a turn, or right. So those skills are just not developed like they used to be when they're coming to school. Yeah. But that's okay, because we can develop them. Well, the teachers wouldn't say it's okay, but
Yeah.
it is what it is, and we're going to fix it. Yeah.
Yeah, in my large extended family, I mean, we've got teachers from all over the valley, and it's a common topic.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's interesting. I'm always looking for more information about this.
Yeah.
So going forward, but it sounds like you're on it.
We're trying.
Yeah, I mean,
We're
yeah,
in it.
you're not ignoring it.
Our teachers are
Yeah.
excited about it,
Yes,
I think. So,
yes.
Yeah. Okay, and then, unless anybody has any other questions about nobody asked you any questions. Professional development. So some of these we anticipated and some we didn't. And you're going to see the difference in personality maybe between Andy and I right now, because he's like, oh, we grew here, and I'm going to say, oh, look, we dipped here. So if you look I kind of highlighted the ones that we were down in to look at why we were moving not the right direction, and if we could identify why and swing that back the other way. See, I'm the buzzkill all the way around. I know, I'm a buzzkill. Okay, so C was professional development offerings are data-driven. That hasn't changed, but the way that we've collected the data has changed. So when principals went back and had that conversation with staff, that's what they identified as the cause of that. So we're going to communicate that differently. We used to every staff member would get a really annoying email from Dustin Haney, like every few days, like this many teachers have completed the Title I's professional development survey, and then 2 days later, now this many have. This school's had nobody reply. This school's completely done, like every few days.
That's how you get it done.
Yes, they were very aware that it was being data-driven. So last year, we did it as part of the checkout process. So when they met with their administrator to sign off on their goals, one of the things that they had to certify that they had completed the survey, but it wasn't in front of them as it had been previously. So that's what they think that one's about. So. Anyway, professional development, I'm looking at F, I'm sorry. Professional development deepens teachers' content knowledge. I would say that's true, that we have moved away from that. We've moved away from content knowledge and moved to strategies. So that makes sense. And then J, professional development is evaluated and results are communicated to teachers. Yeah, I wonder why. That was one of our wonders of what's the best way to communicate that? I feel like we send a lot of emails. And so it's, teacher time is short and they're getting lots of emails and I don't know that it's the best way to communicate with them. So we're looking at ways to build that into just like staff meeting check-ins about this is what we did this month and this is how it went and here's where we're going next is just kind of a built-in thing and staff meetings might be a more effective way to communicate.
That's another figure that's pretty low statewide. There really isn't a good tool across public schools in Oregon about evaluating professional development. If you think about the traditional professional development, it tends to be sitting in the university classroom somewhere, where some efforts have been made, including this issue, the peer model of compensation that we get actually have a more active role in determining what's that professional growth as a teacher. But some of it is just the reality itself of the professional development in public education. It's never been there. You have to evaluate tool.
So we're going to try to deliver that information multiple modality instead of just email. And then looking at M, professional development in the school supports teachers in developing formative assessments aligned to standards. So this is going to sound counterintuitive, but I was excited about that huge drop.
Why?
That? I'll tell you why. Because we have been purchasing for several years the Renaissance STAR assessment program, and teachers have been underutilizing it, and we've worked really hard to get them like, this is what this is used for, and this is how we use it to target our instruction for kids. That's our formative assessment tool. We should not be getting together with teachers like I'm from a 2-3 classroom and I'm from a 1-2 classroom and I'm a straight second grade classroom and try and design an assessment that's going to effectively measure a skill in all 3 of those classrooms. That has never worked well in our district, which is one of the reasons we went to the STAR assessment system. It really compares apples to apples. It's standardized and it measures kid by kid, skill by skill. So we no longer do professional development on creating your own formative assessment.
And I think
So I'm calling that a win.
Yeah, I think some of these answers too, when you first read them, my tendency, and I think a lot of people's tendency, is to read it as a negative. Oh, that's negative. And so when I ask principals, so when you debrief with your staff on this question, and then there was another question about, I don't even remember what the question was. I said, is that necessarily a negative? And they said, no, our teachers didn't view it as a negative response. It was, no, that's not what's happening. And it wasn't, and it should be. It was, no, that's not what's happening. So
I used it as a positive because I said, please stop doing that. And they did.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I think it's, you have to kind of think of it from both sides. Like, is it a negative response or is it a neutral response or a positive response? Or maybe both sides.
Depends on what you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
If our goal was to be providing training to develop formative assessments, then that would be a bummer score. But our goal is to move away from that and use the assessment system that we purchased and focus on the instructional strategies and differentiation. So that would indicate that we're doing that.
So looking at M, you mentioned underutilized by the teachers.
Yes.
So are we talking about teacher apathy, or are we talking about maybe just confusion and not understanding how to use it properly?
Yes, it's a very complex system. It has a ton of information in it, and we have not done a great job at providing the training time to help teachers just walk through step by step. If you want to see your students' growth, this is how you look at it. If you want to see their achievement on this set of sub-skills, here's how you look at it. If you want to look at which students should be grouped for reading levels, math levels, if you want to look at what you just taught last week to see if you should teach on or if you just lost 20% of the class, this is what you look at. I mean, there's lots of stuff in there, and helping them understand what's in there, how to get to it, and then how to use it has been our focus.
So have we opened up a dialogue on basically how to maybe better communicate to the teachers and the staff on how to utilize that in training, or how does that look?
Yeah, and you'll see the percentage, to see if I was more optimistic, like Andy was looking at scores that went up, you will see those are using data to drive instruction and tracking student skills and standards in a real-time way, those kinds of scores are going up, which is what we would expect to see if they're learning, this is what this program does, this is how I pull stuff out of it, and this is how I use it to increase my kids' growth. Yeah.
Ron, some of that is uniformity across the district as well, broken record messaging. Truly, sometimes it just is over and over and over again. Similarly, at every one of our 13 schools, that message has to be repetitive and it has to be consistent. And if it's not, then it begins to, that uniformity begins to fade away.
Sure, we're here so many times, you just filter it out, and it doesn't register.
Well, there's a lot on the teacher's plates.
Yeah.
And so there's like you're never going to do everything 100% awesome. So the messages that get through the multiple times, those are the ones that they say, oh, that's important, I should do it.
Yeah.
And I won't say, like, teachers are all, like, excited about using it. I mean, you said, is that because teacher apathy? Some teachers still think that it's bunk, but we're working through it. Mostly we find that when they assess their kids, when we really walk them through, okay, let's look, does this match what you're seeing? What doesn't match? Let's look deeper with it. Then they say, like, oh, but it takes some time to get to know what's there. It has felt, I think, for many teachers for many years, like jumping through a hoop. It's what we use at the district level to track where everybody is and kind of compare the apples to apples, but it hasn't been very usable real time in a classroom for teachers with kids. And now that they've had some great models of instructional coaches, TOSAs, and interventionists who are using that data to target this kid is lagging in reading because they're missing this one skill. So let's backfill this one skill, and then they just catch up. So there's those teachers, or some of those teachers who were saying this is not how we should do it, like a multiple choice test can't assess what a student knows better than I can when I'm in front of them every day. There's some of that that's absolutely true, but there's some of that they can see a kid grow 3.5 academic years in a school year because they've targeted the lagging skill. So if you're low in reading, we've done like, you're going to get 30 minutes of extra reading. Didn't work the first time, but we're going to give you more of it. Right. So this is more of like, we're going to target that you're low in reading because you have these two skills that are lagging behind the rest of the skills it takes to be a good reader. So when we identify those skills and we backfill those kids take off fast. So I think enough of our teachers have seen that happen with their students to say, okay, well, it's not everything. Like, this program does not wash your car for you. It does not make lesson plans for you. But it does something that's very valuable. So we're getting there.
Okay, cool.
Cool. Yeah. This whole page is one of the pages I look at that tells me that the teachers are giving you good data and they're taking the survey seriously. Because on this page, you got item J, the rate they're giving you 41%, and then item G is 90%. They're not just angry, putting low marks on everything. They're not just rubber stamping it, saying everything's great. They're taking the time to answer each question properly. And so, I mean, I look at this, and I say these, the folks who are sitting down, the 60-some% who in this district who are they're taking it seriously. So I look at, when I say, so I mean, and you guys are taking this data seriously and having good conversations by your testimony here, but it's good. I look at this and I go, this is, the staff is taking it seriously.
Yeah, I would
So-
say, and there aren't
Yeah.
any that were shocking. Well, there were a couple that were a
Right.
little bit shocking, but we were able, I think, to drill down when the principal
Right,
went back
yeah.
and had conversations.
Because they're
about
being
what did you
honest.
mean by
Yeah,
that?
because they're being
Yeah.
honest.
Right.
That's what I mean. That's so.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're honest when they tell you, I got a problem here on this one, and they're honest when they say, I really like this one. That's good. That's just a good sign.
Yeah, it's good information for
Yeah.
us to know what we need to improve and what we're doing well in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, now I did put in here that I wanted to share with you because we launched our own professional development program this school year in connection with our peer program and the new TSPC requirements. And our in-district feedback was quite different than this. So that was one of our wonders and so when principals went back and said, because we thought our PD scores were going to be much higher based on the feedback we were getting, but there's a limited number of people participating in our professional development. So people participating in those are like, it's the greatest thing ever. And then the people who aren't are saying those opportunities are not working for us, they're not doing the right stuff, that's not hitting it for us. So we've had to make some adjustments to our PD program.
So you got two different samples, you got a whole different.
Yep.
What's
so-
what's your response rate on this? Is this an anonymous survey?
So we have it is anonymous, yes, it's 241 total responses, and if you go back up, because they gotta see the question. So just basic questions at the end of each of our in-district professional developments. As a result of this professional learning, my knowledge has increased regarding the content. So almost all would agree or strongly agree.
Okay.
And then professional learning was relevant to my needs in my current position. Again, almost all would agree or strongly agree. And it's important to note, though, that of the 241 responses, some of those are duplicate teachers because they're responding to more than one class they took from us.
Right.
Yeah.
So how many people were sent this survey?
Everybody who participated in any of our in-district professional
Okay.
development courses, and the numbers of that are on the bottom.
Oh,
If I scroll
down
down,
here, got it. You'll
I'll
get there.
make you
Got it. Thank
dizzy
you.
if I go
Okay.
down there and then
Okay.
scroll back up.
Okay.
Yeah. The professional learning was interactive and engaging to participants. Again, almost 100% agree or strongly agree. And then after attending this professional learning, I understand how implementing this directly supports the district vision and goals. Again, almost all would agree or strongly agree. I
Jennifer,
recommend-
this professional development happens after school.
Yeah, that
Right,
was-
so
yeah.
after school hours, so teachers are volunteering to do this.
But paid.
Yes.
Volunteering, sorry.
Yes.
Good-
Well,
Good point,
not
but they're
volunteering, but
agreeing.
They're not, they're not mandated to go. There were some teachers who were directed to go to certain trainings, but for the most part, they're voluntary. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I would recommend this training to others in education. Again, almost all. And then I plan to implement what I learned in the next week, almost 60% in the next 2 weeks, 8.4 in the next month, in the next year. So of those, we had 289 licensed and classified staff participants in 26 workshops. And then other forms of professional development we ran. This was it was hard for us to drill down, like which professional development are you talking about on here? Because we had staff meeting professional development in every building. We had our district professional development. We had our peer professional development. And then we had workshops that we sponsored, like MANT training, Google, Bootstrap, EdTech, STEM, QPR, Trauma. We had all that series. That was another set. And then we have our regularly scheduled PD that everybody participates in. So it was a little bit hard for us to drill down on when they were answering questions about professional development, which one they were referring to. So our principals had to go back and help us out there. So we think we got some good information about what was working about this that we could help with, across the board. Questions about that?
It's probably hard to do a one-size-fits-all, isn't it?
Yeah, when
Yeah.
you shotgun approach the PD, right, then sniper approach the survey, it's hard to, yeah.
But like you said, this was the first year.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Those are kind of good results, so you guys did a lot of professional development
Yeah,
stuff.
but
That's good. It's commendable.
when these didn't match necessarily, and principals went back and had the conversations, we got good information about that time frame from 4 to 6 does not work for me. Like, I will never do that. So we had done that because its intent is to be in lieu of taking a college course. So those all happen after hours. You pay, that's not available for administrative certification renewal. So I had to drive somewhere and pay $2,000 to take a class. This is in lieu of that for our teachers. So they don't have to drive somewhere. They come to us 2 hours, we pay them. They don't pay for it. But one of the things we heard was they have not yet made that connection because that has just rolled out from TSBC, that instead of college classes to renew or upgrade your license, you just need these. So that was part of the disconnect. And then part of it was, we had said we didn't want to sub teachers out because that's hard for kids and it's hard for teachers to prepare for subs and it's very expensive to do. But many teachers said that's really the only model that works for me. Like my work time is my work time and I'm obligated after, before. So that was some of the feedback that we got. So we can roll with that. We can make adjustments. Okay, instructional supports and practices. So these overall look pretty good. I again am going to go with the ones that are lower, because I'm the buzzkill. D, the curriculum taught in the school is aligned with state-based standards. I think that's a growing awareness. As Andy alluded to, we're more the same or more uniform than we have ever been. And I think the assumption was, certainly by me when I was a classroom teacher, that whatever I did was okay. And now there's a growing awareness that there's really some screening that has to happen and some uniformity that has to happen. And so I think there's an awareness of some of the stuff that's being used is not what should be used. So we're getting there. E, teachers work in professional learning communities or clusters to develop and align instructional practices. There was a significant difference here between K-8s and high school, and our corrective action there, 83.4 is still a great number, but what we want to do to support them is we have posted a PLC coach through our Title II funds for next school year to help support the high school in getting that work going in the right direction. And G, teachers are encouraged to try new things to improve instruction. I think, again, that alludes to the uniformity we're asking them to have. We've tried to increase awareness that we can't have kids, we have 9 middle schools feeding into one high school, and so they can't feel like they're coming from 9 different planets into a high school classroom. We really have to, because of the unique configuration of our district, we have to work a little bit harder at making sure that we're lining up our instructional practices to be consistent so that the kids are going in as equal as possible into the high school. So maybe for the first time we are discouraging trying new things. Please, let's all do the same thing. Is more the message right now. Yeah. And then teachers have autonomy to make decisions about instructional delivery, pacing, materials, and pedagogy. That again, I think reflects what we just discussed. Because of the unique makeup of our district, we have to work really hard at making sure we're trying to do things as consistently as possible, especially in those middle school programs as those kids feed into the high school.
I totally get that. I just want to say I totally get that. If you're going to have a district program, you have to say, this is the way that we're approaching this, and this is why, and this works. So that really makes a lot of sense to me. I just want to chime in. Sorry, didn't mean to. Thank you.
No, that's great.
We've seen that from teachers for a lot of years. The more that when we started state testing, and the more that standards have increased, and teaching to the test and all this kind of stuff and all that, because it's coming from the state, has taken away some of the
academic
freedom teachers have. Yeah.
Right.
And so, I remember hearing this from teachers, 15 or 14 years ago, back when we were, state testing and all that stuff was beginning, and I just feel like I'm just teaching to the test, and that's, there's positive and negatives about that. So.
I think as you work through your strategic visioning plan, and we're going to 100% graduation, like to get the last 8 or 9% to graduate, we all have to be on the same page.
Yeah, of course.
Third grade at Scotts Mills has to look the same as Silvercrest, has to look the same at Butte Creek.
Yeah, you have to keep it.
And you really can't do a very good program evaluation unless everybody's doing the same thing, and you can't learn from each other unless everybody's doing the same thing. So I fully support that.
Yeah. It's teachers are feeling it, and it does take away their creativity, it takes away their freedom of choice, it makes them feel like you don't trust me to be the professional and do what I want to do, you're always telling me what to do. Those are hard things, but it has to be. I liked when we were doing the policy review, our OSBA representative, when we looked at the policy on academic freedom, remember she said, there is no academic freedom in K-12 education. That's true, yes, because the state does dictate.
The state dictates it
They say,
all.
like, in health, you will cover this, in science, you'll cover this, in math, you'll cover this. So,
And it
yeah.
doesn't leave a lot of extra time for when you get through all the subjects, it doesn't leave a lot of extra
No,
time,
no.
Well,
unfortunately.
So,
So,
so yeah, we're working hard and our teachers are being, mostly great about sacrificing what it is they love to do what it is they need to do, which is a really hard thing for a teacher. So I have to give them props to just,
Oh, of
they
course,
just
yeah.
are working through that process and just
yeah.
letting that go to embrace this, which I don't like as well, and I don't think it's as good as, but I'm gonna do it because go team, and it's been uphill, but they're doing great. So, in M, teachers collaborate to achieve consistency on how student work is assessed. That's, I don't know, that could just be an anomaly because it is a very close score. But I would hope that, again, that reflects that we're using the standardized assessments more so than we're going to try and get teachers in 9 different schools to agree on what the anchor piece is going to be and what the work's going to look like. That has never been a very realistic model for us. It has never worked particularly well. So there are downsides to using a standardized assessment like STAR, but in our district, the way that we're configured, it's the way we have to go. So, is that all okay?
Cute.
Okay.
Can we go back to Q2 on the page you had? So I am looking at time. All sorts of, I thought maybe I'd burst out into song with that, but it's kind of medley, but you don't want to hear me sing, so. But time, we never have enough, right? We're in a 24-hour day, we're still trying to cram in 25 hours worth of work. And I think what our survey shows is that I think some of our responses, especially in relation to the state, which I'll give you in a minute, shows that our teachers have a greater awareness of what could happen if they had time because of the collaboration grant. Those kinds of dialogue and the planning that are vital to instruction happen when you give them time. The collaboration grant provided us with a nice chunk of money to be able to do that. And I think that we as a district might have a different perspective than at the statewide level. So for example, when we look at, let's see, D, the non-instructional time provided for teachers in my school is sufficient. We've dropped 3 percentage points, and actually at the state, it's a 50% say that. Well, we understand what a different model might look like, and the idea of if teachers have sufficient instructional time to meet the needs of all students, again, we've gone up a bit. We are higher than the state, and I think that just the experiences that we had with some of the grant opportunities showed us what's possible. I think what I learned from this, also our teachers do believe that class size is reasonable at 53% compared to the state average of 37. I think that shows the amount of resources we have poured into personnel, both in hiring teachers and support staff to help kind of share the needs of meeting our kids. But that during our budget committee hearing, I did not have the opportunity to say what my top 3 things would be if I ruled the world for a day. And I think what this here outlines is that we need more time, which means we need a longer school year. We need to figure out how, and we've shared with you the poster before on all of the things that have been added that a teacher's required to do, and we have not increased the amount of time. And it's not just instructional time, which I believe we need to add instructional time to help alleviate the stress and burden on our kids, but we need to add time where teachers can sit and dialogue during the semester, during the grading times, to reflect on the teaching, what's going well, look at the data that Jen and her team are having them pull, that they can do so in a calm manner that's less, oh my gosh, we only have 2 hours, we've got to get this done because Monday we have to be ready to roll. And I think that what I've been so impressed about this district is our ability to think outside the box. Our mission and our vision and our strategic plan is top notch, and I think that if we're going to really address these things that are talked about in time and what teachers want to do, we need to look at this differently.
So Dandy, can I follow up on that? Because some of the things that Jen was saying started some things in my mind. And it's probably not a popular idea. Parents don't really love the early release days in general because it's
Disruptive.
Yeah.
Have we ever considered in the district level of having more of those on a more regular basis, or is that too hard of a sell?
So when early release was adopted by the school board, the message that we received was that we would be allowed 12 and not to ask for more.
Huh.
And so at the same time, having, 6 full days, but one every 6 weeks is not what teachers are asking for.
Yeah.
They want bi-weekly, 3 times a month. Let's dig in there and get it done.
Well, I
Yeah.
have professional development every Wednesday.
Yeah.
And it has made me an amazingly better teacher
Mhm.
because the professional development that our principal has provided
Mhm.
has been
Yeah.
top notch.
Yeah.
And I can see, I actually have been in a school where it wasn't top notch, and
Mhm.
I thought that those times were a waste of time.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
anyway,
It's about
just,
putting the right people in the right places for sure. I mean, just because you get more time doesn't mean it's going to give you a benefit. But it's putting the right people in.
exactly, you have to use the
Yep.
resource that you have wisely.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, it
Yeah.
might not be a popular
Yeah.
opinion, but that's just one opinion, or one perspective, not necessarily an opinion, but a perspective.
And so then my wonder would be, I wonder where we would get the money for that.
Yeah.
If
Well,
we add, a time to the, because we
time.
still have to go instructional minute wise. Our district is tapped out. We need to add minutes.
Where, you mentioned where is this, how many instructional days do we have in Oregon? What's the average, and what's the national average? I read an article a couple weeks ago about that. and-
Second lowest.
We're
We're the
low.
second
We're
lowest.
low.
Most states have 192 instructional days.
Mhm.
And then you add other contracted days for teachers in service and that kind of thing.
Right.
They're pushing
And
close
we're
to
like
200
160 or
days.
something? We're like 160-ish?
Instructional days, we
In
have
It's around
170.
172.
Two.
And actually, the more apples to apples comparison is by instructional minutes in
Minutes.
Oregon.
Right.
But if you're going to compare to other states, days come into
There's a
play.
gap there.
There's definitely-
There's a gap, okay.
Yeah.
A student who goes to school in Washington State all 12 years as compared to a student that goes to school in Oregon State all 12 years will get almost an entire school year more in Washington.
That's worth a discussion.
So Danny, since you planted the seed, have you thought about what that would look like?
Well, I've thought of all sorts of things. I'm sure the 2 students back here are like,
There you go.
Cut her off.
So keeping finances out. in a
Yeah, I
perfect
mean, I
world.
think that there's all sorts of consideration. There's been other studies. I mean, I think that you can look at similar agricultural communities, say in Northern California, where they've implemented not quite a year-round model, but a hybrid year-round model. I think that that's something that you could look at to also address the needs of our specific community. Still having maybe a longer break during the summertime. There's other models where you go to school for 9 weeks, you're off to go, so it's something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, and we should probably just clarify that none of these ideas are what is necessarily going to
Oh, we're
happen,
not saying
but
action.
Right,
No,
right, no,
just-
no. it's-
just
but it's-
thinking outside the box is
And
the
it's- and I
topic.
think it's, as we are moving forward with our new visioning process, it's something to consider if we want to figure out how to give these people more time.
So that was my question after I did spend a lot of time reviewing the aggregate results, and that was my question for Andy, which I'm sure that you guys would chime in on, is what is the big takeaway for us as we move into the strategic plan renewal phase? What stands out as an overarching thing? I mean, I think the time thing is relevant. Are there other ideas?
I think you'll see it in my board report for HR tonight, that the stakes are high and people are feeling the pressure. I mean, as an employment, from an employment angle, it's not just enough to have a passion for the job anymore. You have to be high performing because the stakes are so very high, which is not the conversation we were having 10 or 15 years ago.
And the same is true for the students. I mean,
Yeah.
that mirrors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
I mean, when you look
Yeah.
at the Healthy Teen Surveys, you see the same thing reflected in the kids. They know, like, they're more stressed, like, more withdrawn, more, like, they're feeling that the stakes are higher for them as well. And our teachers feel it too.
So how do you create an environment where people feel good about doing the job they have to do, whether it's I'm a teacher or I'm a kid and I'm supposed to be learning, and have the enthusiasm and the drive to keep plugging away? So one more, facilities and resources.
It's our strength.
It is our strength. I mean, obviously our technology, it went down a little bit, so I was wondering why that was. I asked each of my principals, why in the world would we go down? Because we put so much money into technology and computers and iPads, and none of them could really give me a specific answer about, oh, well, this has happened in this building or this has happened in that building. So I'm not really sure why this has gone down a bit. And in terms of also having access to the supplies, like copy machines and paper and pens, I don't know where that's coming from. In terms of having access to a broad range of professional support personnel, that they're talking about, people like assistance and aid time, things like that. I think definitely in your K-8 setting, where you're trying to do a lot of that differentiated instruction or that leveled instruction within the classroom, they're needing more bodies in the classroom to help them with these tasks. And our internet speed and connection are good there. And the physical environment supports teaching and learning. So, I mean, that has gone up. Closure of Eugene Field. Some of the remodeling we've done with the seismic grant upgrades, I think, can be attributed to that as well. So, that is what it is. The buildings are what they are, and I think we maximize the resources that we have to be able to provide them with high quality education setting.
Jennifer, just getting back to your question, I echo what Jennifer and Danny have shared about personnel. I think it really is a different game than compared to a few years ago when you started in the profession. I think that the expectations are considerably different, and I think when you use the metric related to that last 8 to 10% to truly get our kids to a graduation point in a contemporary school district like ours, that it's going to take some of the most creative energy that we can, that is in some cases unique to this school district, because we're unlike no other, and they're unlike us as well. I think we have to recognize that. So when we get into the strategic plan, I think not only do we have to seek that kind of input from the community, but I think there's some education of the community that needs to happen as well. That times are different, kids are different now than they were years ago. And when we begin discussing strategic plan and we're using this kind of information to help us define what the needs of our community are, it's really important that folks understand we have some of the finest educators around, and we need to listen to what they have to say. And these are valuable pieces of information to help get us there.
Yeah, I'd be really interested to hear about plans to put people's heads together and say, what if, I wonder, because you don't know what will come out of that unless you have those conversations.
Yeah, and I think that'll actually come from a culmination of things. Just the moment you shared that, I went right to facilities. We have a facility planning group that's going to get into some kind of activity next year, right? And so the creative energy toward the school district also has to have a facility discussion related to it. What does that look like 10 or 15 or 20 years down the road for our school district? Because we have to think visionary like that if we're really going to decide, or not if you are going to decide, but if this community is going to be able to adequately share with you how they want it to look. Ron, you also asked me a question a couple of weeks ago about whether there's any disaggregation of the data specific to years of experience within the district. And while there's some demographic information at the beginning, the specific questions are not broken down by the years of experience within the district. There is some breakdown by with the mentoring questions, and you received some feedback from a community member today about that via email. And so that's about the extent of it. It's very challenging, or not even possible, to break that information down by, let's say, a person that's 0 to 5 or 5 to 15 within the district by individual questions within each of the areas.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, and I would say that I would like to see more participation. It was about even this time to last, but I know why teachers don't do it is because time.
It's forever. Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at
40
some of
minutes.
yeah, how long does it take?
30 to 40 minutes, depending on.
Some of the buildings had 100%. What did they do to get that at?
Good question.
Well, at Robert Frost, the principal was there every day. Okay, let's go. We can do this. Let's take some time. I mean,
Some
it was
districts
really
had
fast.
100%.
Yeah.
Are they paying them? Have you heard about what, you look on the whole state and some of them you got 10%. some large districts only 10%, some large districts almost 100%, so I'm just curious, because this, like I said, as I look at this, I go, this is some pretty good data, and the more we can get, thank you to those who did this. So are most people doing this on their own time, or is it company time?
Yes, and we did provide staff meeting opportunities for a number of schools to do it. So after school, that's the only topic for the staff meeting today is doing the tele-survey.
Okay.
Some schools, some teachers were reluctant to do it, especially from some of our smaller staff schools. It's an anonymous survey, but if you're a school of 8 or 10 or 3.
Is that three? Yeah,
There's
yeah.
some
Mark,
schools
I've been there
that we
15
don't get
years.
as few as five. But I don't know that it takes a lot of analysis to, if you're from a school of 10 teachers, for some folks to really kind of dig down about who's who and what it is that you're saying within your school. That feels very personal, I think, for some people. In our school district, that's a little different than a school district that's filled with teachers of 30 or 40 in the building uniformly.
So like Robert Frost felt that those teachers could feel a little more like this is
Pretty
not,
Yeah.
nobody's gonna guess that this
Right.
was me.
And
Well,
she
that's-
said,
yeah.
bring your laptop to the library for staff meeting, open it, take the survey.
She was
Like
very
a-
structured.
Like an SBAC situation, yes.
Maybe there's a strategy, maybe is there a way on some of these, if that's a concern on some of these smaller buildings, can you lump them into one, as into these three? Can you do something that would alleviate that?
We
Because
sure
they're,
give that feedback, but that's out of our control.
Yeah.
okay, right, okay, true.
And this isn't just an Oregon-based survey, it's multi-state, so it's not even Oregon that's probably controlling all of the questions.
Okay, it's a good survey.
There's two things that jumped out on me real quick was, number one, I was excited about the improvements from last survey to this one. I mean, to me, that speaks volumes about what we're doing as a district as a whole. But the other one was, I was extremely disappointed in the lack of participation. And when you say it takes 30 to 40 minutes to do this, come on. I mean, seriously, I've always been involved with jobs that are commission-based. If I don't get it done, I don't get to eat. So the whole world of that 9 to 5 salary kind of is it's a different animal for me. So when I hear that it takes 30 to 45 minutes and 40% did not participate, for me, I'm extremely disappointed with that number. I would think that maybe there'd be a little more zeal, excitement, a little more pride about what they do in their career. So I love what they do. Being a teacher, it's an amazing job. I could never do it. Hats off to them. I would like to see more participation as a whole.
Good feedback, thank you.
Yeah.
I
have
cupcakes, telling teachers
That's
don't
not
teach
proposed
summer
policy.
school.
Say, buy them gas cards.
Give them a movie pass, something like that, really.
I have a question. We were going back to the time thing. I mean, pretty basic. I know when we switched to the early release days, we did 12 because it just made up for the 3 full in-service days we had year round. If we increase that, are we going to be on getting below the required instructional hours?
Yeah, I think you
If we increase,
We're tight
early release days or time for
buildings.
teachers to
Yeah.
meet.
I think you'd have to add instructional day. I think you'd have to add days, instructional days.
In order
In order
to,
to do
then
that.
add,
the increments.
yeah.
We couldn't do early release for development like every week.
No, because
That
it
would be
doesn't
way
count
low.
anymore in instructional time. So we've got 3 buildings that are right on the edge of not
Didn't
being
it count as
staged.
instructional time at one time?
Used to.
Yeah.
It used to,
parent
but they took that
conferences
away.
used to count, educational field trips used to count, none of that counts anymore.
Can you elaborate
Our
on the 3
wonderful
buildings
state.
bit?
Want me to
Jeez,
out
That's
them?
ridiculous.
No, I don't want them, I just am curious to know I want to be able to
So
explain it
they're
when somebody asks
under,
me.
I don't want to say they're understaffed, but the way that they're staffed, in order for those teachers to get their 30-minute duty-free lunch, the kids are at lunch for 30-plus minutes, so that cuts into their minutes. Their bell schedule, because of busing, is
So it's a busing
impacted.
prep issue, really?
Yeah.
Trying to get all that
Yeah.
aligned, okay.
Yeah. And there's beliefs about how many minutes of recess kids should have versus sitting, in classroom time. And so we've been having some creative negotiations about, now that everybody's required to do PE 30 minutes a day, do we need to have 3 recesses? And, some conversations like that. So can we add that 30 minutes from those 2 15-minute recesses back in, but then kids don't get any free playtime. That doesn't seem right either. So it's just, it's,
So you
Challenging.
think that there might be some windows there, but it is a challenge for those three.
We actually had some recent discussion about, within the existing calendar, to consider something like, say, cancellation of the spring parent-teacher conference, which is also a non-instructional time. It used to be instructional time. That would gain us 6.5 hours if we were to do that, simply because we're such electronic-based communicating school district as compared to where we were just a few years ago. There may be some merit to that.
Are
would
other
take some
districts
interest.
doing something like that? Because I know spring
I'm not
con-
certain about that, but I think there would be some interesting conversation to be had about the importance of the spring conferences, or the lack of importance, especially when we have such a web-based system for communicating grades and other performance measures to parents.
And turnout's just,
And turnout's
usually
it's
lower.
generally targeted in the spring anyway, rather than being open parent conferences. The other consideration, this is a costly one, but I think it has some merit. Actually asked Andy a couple years ago to look into that, and that is to create a uniform schedule at every one of our schools in the district, so that they all start at the same time, they all end at the same time. Guess what the biggest variable is?
buses.
Buses. It's all about buses. We'd increase our bus cost by half, 3/4 more than what we currently do. So we're talking millions of dollars in order to facilitate equal start and ending time. That alone would add instructional hours to a number of our schools. But we can't do that because the buses regulate how
Yeah.
we can get kids to and from school. It's a very
And even
interesting
at this
situation.
point, it's not just even having the equipment, now it's having the drivers.
The drivers. Right.
Because they have a shortage, just like everyone else does.
And in a large geographic district like ours,
Yeah.
you have to be regulated by busing. I mean, so you just don't have a choice. As compared to even Woodburn, where you're a little bit more intimate.
we have much more
Much more.
uniformity, much more.
We have not in the past, with the PLC model that we have run, had the option to go to more frequent and later starts because our schools, we're spread over 250 square miles and different release times, so you have to have those teachers from those various grade levels come together. So 1 hour won't do that for you. It has to be multiple hours because it's an hour and a half before you can even get them all in the same room because of the spread of release time and geographic area. But with a PLC model we tried to some extent this year and that we're going to dive into next year, that's a possibility that we could look at more often and shorter times because we wouldn't be dependent on them traveling from, Silvercrest to Prattam to get to a meeting. And Silvercrest gets out, I think, at 3:20 and Prattam gets out at 2:05. So, and then there's the drive. We're unique.
It's complicated.
Yes.
It's complicated.
Yes.
Very good. Questions?
Thank you, great question.
You bet, thank you. No, this is a good survey because it spawned some really good discussions here, so it's good. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's not a bad idea. Yeah, can we move the action item possibly, move it up to anybody, to allow the travel for the clay target team so they can go?
Oh,
This is going to be a late meeting.
sorry, guys.
Anybody have any objections to that?
No,
Nope.
Unless they're really interested in what we're talking about.
Unless they're really interested in it, okay.
The young man tells me I'm going to pack to the summer hours.
Okay. Okay, so let's just move that up right now. Let's move up to action item A. Do I have a motion to approve travel of the Silverton High School clay target team members to the national tournament in Mason, Michigan from July 12th to July 15th?
Move for approval?
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Once again, congratulations. Hope
Yeah.
it passes.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries 6-0.
Have fun.
All right,
and do
have fun,
good.
guys. Good job, good luck.
Good luck, yeah.
Good luck.
I'll be back in my office at 7:30 if you want to come over.
Future school board members of America.
That's funny.
Good suggestion, Todd, thank you. Okay, now let's move on to the annual personnel report. Take it away, Dandy.
Thanks. So the report, the data for this school year was compiled as of June 14th. With me being out, my assistant being out, and then the board meeting kind of the report got shifted. It's not up to date since after June 14th through now, but when I go to do the report next year, I'll make sure that you have an updated figure for this school year. So, and this report is going to primarily focus on licensed people, licensed employees tonight. So you have about 454 employees. That doesn't include your administrators, including district office admin and supervisory people. You have about 244 licensed people and 210 classified people. This coming fall, I've listed the years of service recognition. We've got 3 people that we'll be recognizing for 40 years of service in the district. And then on down, and you can see the increments there. As of the 14th of June, we had posted 22 licensed positions and received 298 applications. So that average is 13.5 applications for each position. Some of those include a speech and language pathologist, the Dana new position. We had 1 applicant for that, and that was somebody we stole from a consulting firm. So you also have TOSA positions that are very specific in terms of the applicant that you would draw from. Compared to, say, for one of our first grade positions, we had 30 applicants. At the high school social studies job, we had 36. So in your more commonly filled topic or content areas, we have really large pools, which we're happy about. Tom, I know that you'd asked a question about how does ODE calculate our teacher experience, which is a figure that Steve had reported in one of our financial reports a couple of months ago. You'll note that, or he noted at the time that the state average is 12.01 years of experience. Silver Falls was at 13.8 years of experience, which meant we received more funding because of that. In speaking with the powers that be at ODE, they look at total teacher experience. It's calculated differently every year based on the entire population of teachers that are working, and it includes your regular ed teachers, your head teachers, special ed, PE, all of those people combined for the average years of experience. And so we consistently are higher than the state average, which has always increased our funding levels, so we're happy for that. Okay, let's see. I got this new thing here. Let's see if it works. Oh, look at that. So happy. All right, so the first thing that I wanted to address specifically is salary information. I know that some members of the public had cited a Statesman Journal article that appeared, I think it was maybe back in April, that talked about our salary schedule being one of the lowest paid salary schedules in the bachelor's degree column in the state. And unfortunately, we know that sometimes the media doesn't fully report all of the information because that doesn't read for as great of a headline. And so when you look at the data here, you'll see Silver Falls is listed at the top with our student population. We have our bachelor's degree is 36,619. So it is accurate when they said that we were one of the lower paid districts for that column in that category, but what they didn't indicate is that we have a special compensation scale called PEER, which we've talked about before, which if our teachers opt into that, they become one of the top 10 highest paid starting salary wages in the state. And so we implemented PEER, recognizing that the Teacher Standards and Practices Commission, we're not going to require college credits anymore. And we felt that maybe our teachers would want something that rewarded them for the professional development that they're taking part of to make themselves better teachers, as compared to taking a class at Western or at Oregon State. That cost them $2,000. They get a $1,000 raise. It's not really, financially, it doesn't pencil out. We thought this was a much better opportunity for our teachers, and currently we have 58 teachers enrolled in that peer model of compensation. So this is our 3rd year of implementing that, and I can tell you that as our new hires come on board, many of them, the majority of them are opting into peer. And then, so when you look at our salary comparisons, at the top end, 70,000 in our traditional model to 73,400 in our peer, you can see that our steps are pretty much the same compared to these comparison districts. And you'll also note that some of these districts here, like Canby, requires their teachers to kick in their PERS rates. So that's an additional 6% that comes out of their salary for their PERS. But I think what's interesting is if you also look at the insurance, because it's not just about your salary that you're bringing home, but it's also about your benefits. And if you look at our our insurance benefit, for those opting into the HSA account, you'll see that for the most part, we're about $200 higher than most other districts in our comparison. So, and I'm happy to answer any more specific questions than that. I mean, it's included in your packet, and so if you...
No, thanks for the clarification
Yeah,
on that.
no problem.
It's-
Okay, so our second slide, wow, that's pretty big, you can see that. So thankfully you have a printout. Has to do with your district office administrators. So this particular slide is with regard to your superintendent. The first comparison here is for those districts that range from 1,500 kids to 3,900. We, of course, are at the top, almost at the 4,000 student level. In that comparison, you have a low superintendent making $121,000 to a high of $155,000 with the average of $132,000. So our superintendent is just above average. But the other thing that you need to look at is the years of experience. And we have 8 years of experience in our superintendent role. I believe Lebanon was the next most experienced person, who, by the way, has just resigned. So we have one of the most senior superintendents in these comparisons. And you'll also note that many of these districts actually have higher student population rates than we do by slight amounts, but they are similar to us in socioeconomic categories, as well as some of those districts that people were asking about, like Albany or Salem-Keizer. So any questions about what that looks like? On to your assistant superintendent, again with the same comparisons of your district's 1,500 to 3,900 kids. You have a low of 110, a high of 128, and an average of 119. Here for the Silver Falls School District, your assistant superintendent, which is me, it's weird I'm talking about myself in third person, is 116. But you'll see many of these comparison districts actually don't have an assistant superintendent. They have either an HR specialist or a director, and many of these districts, their point person is making more money. So those are your two main district office top pay scales. Your other directors are in a regular salary range, and they're difficult to compare because not every district has like a director of special ed or a director of teaching and learning, so it's not really comparing apples to apples. I did the same comparison for your principals. So we have high school principals and we have elementary principals. And again, our elementary buildings are very difficult to compare because they're so uniquely configured. I think what you would see here is that your high school principal, again, based on years of experience though, is important, is in the low pay range. And then your elementary principals, again, because a lot of them have district level duties, like they're the director, they're Title II director, or they're in charge of homeless and that thing district wide. They have a few more responsibilities and they work longer. They have longer contracts than a regular principal. And so their salaries are in the mid, above average category.
Ooh, I have a question about this.
Yeah.
So is each principal position negotiated based on that specific set of duties, or is there a schedule? How
There's
does
a
that work?
schedule with that as well. And then let's say that you do, like you're a K-8 principal in that contract, I'm going to make this up. is 225 days, but then you're also going to be the homeless, migrant ed, and ELL coordinator, and that is a 260-day job. So then you're prorated based on that. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of funding sources. I think that it's important to note that our hiring practices in the last 3 years have really become more streamlined. I developed this packet, which is posted online, and it is an ongoing process in training principals about how we post jobs, how we conduct interviews, how we screen applicants, and it has been a high learning curve, not only for them, but also for the staff, because a lot of the staff are veteran and they've been here for a long time, and that's not how we do it, and why would we do it? And so my best example of this process in action, which like outlines everything from what happens when you first get the resignation to how do you post a job, that now you have all of these applications you're supposed to look at, is the idea that we create uniformity and a common purpose, and who are we looking for to fill this position. And that has been a new conversation for our people in terms of, it's not just the third grade teacher you just lost. What else does this person do? Or what else in your building are you needing to find, or a skill that are you needing in a new applicant or a new candidate? And so, for instance, when we had the interview process for Leslie Roach, our principal at Robert Frost, I had a veteran staff member who absolutely refused to participate in screening of the applications. And so I went ahead and let this person not participate in that, but then come back for the pre-interview process. And it was probably the best comment I've ever had, is that the person at the end, or as we were progressing through the process, said, I completely understand why we all need to be on the same page, and what you did was so important for us to set that vision so we all know what we're looking for. And I use her little testimonial multiple times and get her to talk to people when I'm trying to craft these committees and have them talking about what is our common purpose and vision to meet the district common purpose and vision. You look, Mr. Blando went over the TEL survey results a little bit. I think that what is important when you're talking about HR issues and how our building principals are leading our staff within the building, that in terms of people having a shared vision, you're up 22 percentage points. I'd like to think that that's also part of the implementation of our hiring practices, that we're hiring people that are on the same mission as we are, that believe in what we're striving for with our 100% graduation rate. I also think that this demonstrates holding teachers to those high standards, that stress that we talked about, that accountability. They're feeling it, they recognize it. And so it's a tough job, and it's tough to have those conversations, but I think that the teachers understand that by everybody operating the same page, that it's going to make everybody's job easier in the end. Again, teachers are performance is assessed objectively, and the procedures are consistent, and they are evaluated by someone who is well prepared in the district's evaluation tool. I think this is especially significant when you think of the number of new administrators that you have at the high school and how highly trained that they are. And so we have spent a lot of time making sure that principals are calibrated. That includes district office administrators. Jennifer, myself, Andy, walk with building principals. We do observations. We talk about the evidence. They code it. And so that we are constantly calibrating and using the vocabulary that we have in the Danielson framework. I want to talk about our 5-year comparisons in terms of our hiring and retention. So for 13-14, at the beginning of that year, we hired 13 new people, and 8 of them are still here. Is that
It's been happening
Oh,
periodically.
okay.
It's okay.
And then, so then you can see I did that for each year who we've hired. And again, when I say new hires, that doesn't mean brand new teachers out of the gate. They could be brand new teachers, first or second year teachers, teachers with no experience, or teachers with 10, 15, 16 years of experience. But of those people, that's 99 total, and again, remember that's as of June 14th, because this number has changed a little bit. Of those 99 teachers, 77 of them were still here, so that's a 77.7% of our new hires are still here. 77% of our new hires are still here. Of those people that left, 59 that left, 5 of them returned, which means 8% of them left and returned. So I think that that is actually indicative of the kinds of things that we encourage our teachers to do, especially when we're asking them to step into leadership roles and get additional experience elsewhere, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute. And then, of course, you had 36 people retire, and that is a direct reflection of the 2 retirement incentives you've offered in the last 4 years. People take advantage of that, and that's where we're getting our outstanding pool of substitute teachers, as well as your 3 new master mentor teachers. So I think that we're doing good work there. So what you also need to know is all of this is hand compiled. There is no magic computer database system that allows me to configure an Excel spreadsheet and it populates it and gives me this. So this is Sandy and I going over each person name by name and putting this together.
So this was your spare time?
In my spare time. This was after I took the TEL survey. I don't get to take the TEL survey. This was my summer. And so what you can see here in this first one is in the 13-14, you know, I tried to keep it anonymous because you're not supposed to know everybody's personnel issue. But I also tried to give you some information about where are teachers leaving from or going and how long have they been here. So this is kind of skewed here. This number actually reflects the number of years that they were in the district and then with the reason that they've left. And so, you know, this person here resigned to take a job closer to home. Like, as much as I would like us to be in Vancouver, Washington, not really. But if my spouse works in Vancouver and I don't want to move here, my spouse doesn't want to move here, I'm probably, with the good economy, going to choose to be closer to home. Those are people's personal choices.
So Danny, all these are one person?
No, these are just various, these are.
No, I mean, not all on one page.
Each
line is one person?
Each line is one person,
Okay,
sorry,
okay.
yes. Yes,
So like the first one, was it
person number 1,
high school teacher, 28 years experience, retired.
yes.
Okay.
The second person is a K-8 teacher, was here 4 years, resigned due to medical issues.
Okay.
Okay. So, you know, for instance, we had this person here, was here 12 years, resigned to take an AD job. Well, I have one AD job at the high school, and if that's not open and that's what they want to do, then that's what they should get to do. 14-15, again, you've got the same kind of breakdown here. We did have one layoff and it was not music, due to some budget cuts in a particular area. And then, you know, again, when we say program is returning, they left because they wanted to go to another district that had a program that they were particularly interested in gaining experience, and now they're coming back. So we often encourage people that if there are things that they want to do that we don't provide, go get that experience, and when the time is right, let's see if you can get back to the district, which is why we currently have 5 people that do that. And we also, you'll note here, this year right here, we've got people who are taking 1-2 years leave of absences, teaching out of the country, staying home to raise kids, taking classes, traveling, trying different careers. We give them a leave of absence because I want happy teachers. And if somebody leaves and says, you know what, I really want to try X for, you know, a year, can you let me have that time? Yes, I will let you have that time. Let's figure it out. Because if they want to come back and we've got a spot for them, I want them to be able to say, you know what, I tried that, it was not what I thought it was going to be. I'm happy, this is good for me. And I think there's multiple things that we do in this district that are very unique, that provide people that opportunity to explore other avenues or other passions so that they can become reinvigorated and hit the ground running and do the hard work we're asking them to do. So 16-17, again, this was a heavy retiree year because that was your second incentive that we offered at the end of that. And then 17, 18, this year, we've got some leaves of absences, some retirees, and again, this will be updated for next year, so that you can get all of that. The information that I just shared with you does not talk about temporary hires. So temporary hires are not necessarily your employees. They are not entitled to a job because they're filling in for someone with a leave of absence. They're filling in for someone like maybe a last minute position that we were able to add because title funding was increased, or somebody got an AD job somewhere and now we're trying to figure out how do we staff that? Are we going to keep staffing it after this year? That kind of thing. And so even with our temporary hires, I think the numbers are good. If you look at the number of temporary people that we've hired, and again, these are not people entitled to any kind of job after their temporary contract, and the number of people that we're able to then put into permanent positions, I think that is also a good number. It demonstrates that, that they are able to test drive us as well. I think your probationary period or your temporary period allows not only the district to decide, hey, are we all really on the same page, and is this a teacher that's going to help us meet our goals, but it's also an opportunity for the teacher to say, is this really the place where I want to put roots down? Or maybe I'm here for a year or 2 years and I decide, you know what, I really like a metropolitan area. I'd rather be able to live in downtown Portland and, Uber around and not have to drive. And so I think our temporary opportunities provide that for teachers. Some other things that
On this, no, it's fine. On these positions that become open in late summer, they're called a temporary hires. Do we have a few more of those because of these? I know we used to wait on hires because to see if the PE grant would come through.
Right.
Did that kick some of those new hires into that category inadvertently?
Yeah, the PE grants, a lot of things to do with title, like the reading positions, the reading specialists, because the funding is always so unsure. You never know how much money you're really going to get. So for your October 1 enrollment comes around and you decide, oh, holy cow, we need to hire another kindergarten teacher in November, that becomes a temporary hire. You might not have that person again because might not be the need for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so some other things that we do for our employees. We have the Employee Assistance Program, which I believe we talked a little bit about during the Budget Committee hearing. And we have actually upgraded that benefit and are going to be providing more free sessions for our employees with regard to counseling and things like legal services. We had a pretty good, in year 2, we had a pretty good usage of that Employee Assistance Program model. And so in speaking with Steve, the cost to increase that was only $1,500 for the year for all of our employees. And so we will again be pushing that. I know that we received a lot of favorable comments about having this available for employees. And then last year, so a year ago this spring, when we were bargaining with the teachers union, Article 20 of the collective bargaining agreement addresses tuition and professional development. So recognizing that the collaboration grant and that money was going to go away, your district leadership put on the bargaining table, we would like to increase the tuition pool by $18,000. And because we wanted to recognize that people need to have professional development, they need to have access to money to be able to attend these different conferences and have travel expenses. And so for this first year, it was used by 16 teachers for a total of $6,500. So not a great, I don't consider that a resounding success of the use of those dollars, but I think it's definitely a jumping off point in terms of we're going to put a brochure out, we're going to publicize it really well, and encourage them to access this money to help pay for their professional development so that they can use these opportunities. So I think it's also, when you look at your peer compensation model and when you look at like this is, again, cutting edge. There are very few districts that offer this kinds of alternative compensation to their teachers. And so I think that, when you look at overall the package, there is any place perfect? No, it's not. But I think that, if you're looking for a place where people can really, within the framework that the Director of Teaching and Learning gives them, that they do have the opportunity to be able to try new things and become teacher leaders and explore like what's a good fit for them. And I think that's also indicative in the number of people that you have continuing to come to our booth at the job fair and the number of applications you continue to get and people who are trying to come back to the district. So, are there any questions?
No.
Yeah, Jen.
So this was a much more detailed than what we got last year.
Yes, it is.
It sounds like you'll be able to add,
Yeah.
you know, be able to include this information plus add to
Yeah.
in future years. That's great. The question that I had was, is there other information of this sort that you would find beneficial to analyze, but it was what would be pretty difficult to collect?
Well, I mean, now that we've actually done the handwork, you know, and set up the templates, and I've showed Sandy what I'm wanting, you know, she can, as things happen, she can just add them. You know, I know some people have talked about the exit survey and using that tool. I'm kind of torn about that because most districts that use that are very large districts. We're talking Portland Public, you know, Corvallis is a large district that uses a tool like that. Your smaller districts don't necessarily use that because, first of all, it's pretty expensive because you would need to have an outside third-party agency do that. And, you know, it needs to, it has to stay within HR. It would not necessarily be an appropriate task for the board to do because that exposes you to personnel issues that are kind of outside the scope of what you're supposed to be dealing with. So, I mean, I think that data is good. I think that, like, there were some people who I didn't know what happened to them because I wasn't in this position when this was going on. So I drummed up previous principals. I'm like, where did this person go? I think this person went here. And so that legwork, you know, then we would call them or confirmed it. So that's kind of a long answer. I'm not really sure what else I would personally need to feel like I had a handle on what the data is. Because like I can use the COSA website for the salary. That's all self-reported. Every district is required to report on that. The one thing that I would be interested in looking at is, and this is a bargaining issue, you know, perhaps a wage comparison for people at the top end of our scale. I'm not sure that we're quite where we should be because PEER doesn't quite address all of those issues. So I would want to do an analysis on that. That's going to take some time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dandy.
Yeah.
Good report.
You know, I want to say one thing too, Danny. I really appreciate the time and effort you took to put this together. For the longest time, you know, there's been this false narrative, especially when someone's got an agenda as far as pulling one piece of information, such as the annual salaries, and they just start to bloviate on this falsity. So there's nothing more powerful than facts and the truth. So I hope this would put to bed anyone that's got that continuation of that narrative of how we treat our teachers. I mean, this thing is phenomenal. So I really want to say thank you again for the information.
Well,
you
you're
presented.
welcome. And what I would hope is that if people have questions, that they would call and ask me.
Yeah.
I have not had any questions from the public with regard to things like, hey, Dandy, can you talk to me about PEER? Well, what does that look like? I mean, I've had questions from teachers about it, of course, but not from members of the public who are questioning, you know, some of our hiring practices or what we're doing. And I would also say there's always 2 and 3 sides to every story.
Sure.
And it's tough. The job is tough. So I have the utmost respect for teachers. I come from a long line of educators. It's a hard job. You get up every morning hoping you knock it out of the park, and some days you put your head down on the pillow and you go, wow, I blew it today. So
This is phenomenal. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
great
you,
work.
Dandy. Good job.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Board reports. Anybody have anything they'd like to report?
Oh, I went to the camp invention today because my child's participating this year, and that was a new program last year. It's at the high school. One of our high school teachers, I think, is heading it up, and there's a lot of hands-on development of prototypes and thinking about really innovation, I think. And last year, I know that there was a module that emphasized entrepreneurship, which I personally have a bias toward, because I think that when kids see themselves as entrepreneurs, that then that enriches our local economy, and it just makes our community a better place, and gives the child a better opportunity. So I just wanted to say that I thought it was a great thing, that I think the district is probably, agreeing to host this. It is a fee-based camp, but maybe it would, promote more of that kind of hands-on and entrepreneurship in our schools. And I think that is kind of the trend of the future from what I'm reading, is hands-on is really kind of important. So it was really nice to see that at the high school. So thumbs up.
Okay. All right, anybody else? Okay, next, correspondent. Andy, you got any?
Nothing new. You received one from a community member over the weekend, or I guess yesterday.
Yeah. Okay. I think we need to slip in a second audience with visitors right here. It's not on the agenda.
Oh, good call.
So,
Yeah, you're right.
So anyway, yeah. So would anybody like to address the board about the second audience with visitors with specific to the action items? Okay, seeing none. We'll move on to the action items. Okay, we already took care of the high school clay target team, but now we need to talk about take action on moving the budget, the September budget. What's the proper terminology? Budget. Yeah, seating. Yeah, we need move. We're supposed to seat them in September, but we'd like to move that to November. So do I have a motion to move the seating of budget committee members to November, to the November meeting?
So moved.
Okay, we have a second. We had two. Who wants to claim the motion?
I don't care, I'll second.
Okay. You moved it? He moved, and Tim for the second. Okay. I have a motion for approval and a second. Do I have any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, very good. Okay, well so now we need to adjourn to executive session under ORS 192-660-2H to consult with counsel concerning the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. Thank you for coming. Does anybody have any further business? Okay, seeing none, meeting adjourned. Thank you for coming.